You know, I once heard a saying, sometimes you never really care about something important until it's gone, until it's been taken from you in an instant, before you can react. And when it happens, that's it. You can't change it back to how it was. You can't make up for it. You can't do anything. I came from an engineering works in Cumberland, Fletcher, Jennings & Co. I think it was called. Can't really remember anymore. What I do remember is that I wasn't completed properly. What I mean is, my construction was rushed, though I didn't really knew it, not yet anyway. This place, the Mid-Sodal Railway, was desperate for an engine. When they knew about me, they wanted me here as quickly as possible. That's exactly what happened. I remember how excited I was after being stuck in a workshop for God knows how long. I was out in the world. I felt free and that nothing, not a single thing could stop me. I think it took about a day to get me from the works to the transfer yard of the railway. I didn't care. I enjoyed watching the scenery as it flew by. All the same though, it was wonderful when the journey ended and I was finally on rails again, under my own power. The other mid-sodal engine was there to greet me. He said his name was Duke, and I introduced myself afterwards. He seemed very pleased to see me, and we chatted for a while, as I was being fired up. He said he was the first on the line, and had mostly ran it single-handedly. There were other engines, but they were either visitors, or sent away for being troublemakers. I began to feel a little nervous after hearing that. I could tell through Duke's tone that he was doubting me, that I would just be like the others. It meant I would have to make a very good impression, something I was unsure I could do. I had hoped my introduction to working wouldn't be this stressful. Regardless, once I had the fire, I got to work. Surprisingly, the beginning was smooth. I did simple duties at first, shunt coaches and trucks, take workmen to the mines, help with maintenance and so on. Duke began to be a little easier on me over time, as he was impressed with my work. Then things got a little more interesting. I was tasked with my very first passenger train. It was double-headed with Duke, so he could help me if I slipped up somewhere. I did a few times, but nothing too serious. After that, I was trusted to handle important trains alone. Me and Duke began to grow fond of each other. I actually had a nickname for him, Dukey. I'm not sure he entirely liked it, saying it wouldn't suit his grace, or something like that, but he didn't seem to mind too much. After that, I felt on top of the world. I had a great home, with plenty of work, and a friend to share it with. It seemed impossible for anything to go wrong. But something did go wrong. My crew had noticed a pattern during my runs. I was a very rough rider, making it difficult for them to keep their balance in my cab. One day, the manager and some workmen gave me an examination to find the cause of the problem and hopefully a solution. That's when I noticed it, that my construction was poorly done. Some of my parts were loose and others were unstable. Unfortunately, the railway didn't have the resources to fix me, nor did they have the time to send me to a workshop that did. Summer was approaching, and it would be then that the work would be at its largest. There was no way Duke could manage it alone, not at his current age anyway. The manager concluded that my crew would have to put up with the rough riding until they could find time to get it fixed. My nerves had returned. Everything was fine. Everything was perfect, except this one issue that could put my whole life at risk. But I told myself that it wouldn't, that I will still be the best I can be, that this will not affect me. Little did I realise, my real troubles hadn't even started yet. The first time was a week after the examination. I was making my way to the mines with some empties. The trucks were behaving well, and my crew had gotten used to handling me. Then, as I approached a small curve, I just came off. I just went off the tracks and landed on the ballast. It happened so suddenly, there was no time for anyone to react. Some workmen came to re-rail me, and Duke demanded to know what had happened. I told him I didn't know, until the driver suggested it was my condition that caused it. Duke, in a stern manner, told me I should be more careful and not go so fast. That way, this wouldn't happen again. That's exactly what I did, and the next few days went by smoothly. I was much slower than usual, and I didn't derail once. However, this all created another problem. All my trains were late, resulting in many complaints from passengers and workmen. I started to get frustrated with Duke after that. His advice only made matters worse for me, so I scrapped the idea of being slow. I would go at the speed required for the job. The accidents became more common after that. They were quick and unpredictable. They could happen when I was pulling a train, or doing something as simple as shunting a few trucks. Each time I became more angry and careless, and each time Duke would scold me, as if it was my fault. I thought to myself, what's wrong with him? Why is he getting so worked up over some derailments? Who worries about a few spills? Well, they did here, and truthfully, my spills were more than just a few. Yet, despite all this, the manager kept me around, knowing what the cause of all this was, and knowing it wouldn't be long now. Soon I could go to the works, and my troubles would be over. And my troubles were over, but not in the way we all expected. I was up at one of the mines with some loaded trucks. The miners loaded them sooner than expected, meaning I could actually take my time on this run. But even that couldn't help me. As I began to leave, some workers were by the line having their backs turned to the track while having a chat. I gave them a quick whistle. They were at a safe distance, but I saw no harm in letting them know I was coming. They looked over, waved a thank you, and turned back. As I was about to pass them, it happened. Just like every other time, I leapt off the track and moved towards the workers. As one of them turned to me, my buffer beam knocked into him. I didn't run him over, I had stopped by then, but he fell head first into the hard ground. When his friends helped him up, I saw he had a bleeding nose and scratches all over his face. He was furious and shouted and swore, saying I was a hazard that belongs nowhere but a scrapyard. Soon, Duke arrived and took me to the sheds. He didn't say anything, and neither did I. There was nothing to say. At the sheds, the manager told me that while I wasn't to blame for the incident, because of it, a majority of the railway staff didn't trust me anymore. I didn't respond much. All I could do was sit there, disgraced and depressed, as the place I once called home became unrecognizable. I was then informed that there was only one alternative to scrap, one way to make me useful at last. By the time I found out what I would become, it was too late. My wheels were removed, and I was placed in a small open building behind the shed. They had turned me into a generator. All I could do now is watch. Watch as other trains pass me. Watch as the railway changed through the years. And I would never be part of it again. Apparently, Duke told other engines about me, as a warning of what can happen if they act out of line. I suppose it is the best way to keep them in order. When passing, some of those engines would whistle hello, while others ignored me, as if I was nothing. In some ways, I guess I was. Then one day, I heard the big news. The Mid-Sodo Railway had run out of business and was closing down. People from other railways came to buy the engines. No one ever considered purchasing me and restoring me back to an engine. But why bother when you already have a set of younger engines right there and then for the taking? After all that, the railway was completely abandoned. No one was around, except me. Time went by, and the world around me began to change. Heavy rain started to fall, thunder could be heard above. I didn't think much about it though. I couldn't really think about anything. What was there to think about? As I began to try and think of anything to think about, I didn't notice a few rocks falling from the mountain above, landing near me. I didn't notice the sound of land above me weakening from the rain. And I didn't notice the large rock that was to fall directly above me. And now, here I am, looking at where my remains still are, buried under rubble. All I can do now is roam this place, as a lonely spectre. Someone who thought he was unstoppable, and yet, everything that is so important to any engine was taken from him. Someone who can no longer feel. I don't feel happy, or sad, or angry. I don't feel anything. Ugh. Blasted rain. Never heard anything like it. Still here, I see. Still in my shed, on my old little home, or what's left of it. How long have I been asleep? Doesn't matter, I suppose. I should be able to get back to it soon. I wonder how Falcon and Stuart are doing. Hopefully they found a home they like. I wonder if they still remember me. If they told anyone about me. I wonder... Oh, I almost forgot about him. I wonder what happened to Smudger. Did anyone buy him? I don't remember anyone mentioning him when those controllers were here. Was he left behind?